What if the reality we perceive isn't actually real? What if we are just characters in an elaborate and complex computer simulation? A virtual construct created and run by a more advanced civilization, similar to how we create and run video games and their interactive worlds. While this idea may seem far-fetched or even disturbing, it raises profound questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and our place in the cosmos. On today's episode, we will explore the simulation hypothesis, its origins, and the evidence for and against it. We will also discuss the possibility of escaping the simulation and the implications of living in a simulated reality. The idea of a simulated reality is not new. In fact, it dates back to ancient philosophy, where thinkers like Plato and Descartes suggested that reality may not be as it seems. In modern times, the idea has been depicted in a number of science fiction movies, with the 1999 movie The Matrix being probably the most famous one. The movie depicts the world as a computer simulation, run by a rogue AI in order to keep humanity in a dreamlike state, to be used as an infinite power source. One of the most famous proponents of simulation theory is Nick Bostrom, a philosopher and futurist who presented his ideas in a paper titled, "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" In the paper, Bostrom argues that as technology continues to advance, it is possible that future civilizations could create simulated worlds that are so realistic that their inhabitants would not be able to distinguish them from reality. Thus, it is plausible that we are living in a simulated world created by a more advanced civilization, rather than in the real world. That everything we see, hear, touch, and feel might be nothing more than computer code. This theory has implications for philosophy, religion, and science, and has sparked much debate and discussion among scholars and the public alike. While simulation theory may seem like a wild idea, there are several pieces of evidence that suggest it could be true. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence is the advancement of computer technology. As computers become more powerful and sophisticated, it is becoming increasingly possible to create more and more sophisticated and lifelike virtual worlds. In fact, we are already seeing this in video games. They have advanced from a simple two-dimensional game featuring two white rectangles and a small square ball in the early 70s to fully immersive open-world games in 3D featuring ever more sophisticated graphics today. These games create dynamic and interactive virtual worlds, often allowing scores of players to join and play simultaneously and to interact with each other. The creation and continued advancement of virtual reality devices is the latest step blurring the line between us and our senses and these virtual worlds. It is only logical to assume that this trajectory will continue till we won't be able to distinguish between the virtual world and the real world. Another argument for the simulation theory is that if it is possible to create a simulation that is indistinguishable from reality, then it is likely that we are living in one. This is because the number of simulations that could be created is much greater than the number of real universes that could exist. For example, imagine that there is only one real universe and that there are 1,000,000 simulations created by advanced beings. If you were to randomly select a universe from the pool, the chances of you selecting the real universe would be 1 in 1,000,000. Therefore, it is much more likely that we are living in a simulation than in the real universe. Finally, there are several strange phenomena in our universe that could be explained by simulation theory. For example, the fact that our universe seems to obey mathematical laws could be seen as evidence that it is a simulation. In a simulation, the laws of physics and mathematics could be programmed into the code, resulting in a universe that follows those laws perfectly. If we accept the possibility that we are living in a simulation, naturally we arrive at other questions, namely how we can escape such a simulation and why the simulation was created in the first place. The prospect of escaping the simulation is not straightforward or certain, as it depends on the nature and rules of the simulation itself. One way to detect or prove simulation is to find glitches or anomalies in the simulation that cannot be explained by natural or physical laws. Some researchers and theorists have suggested that certain quantum phenomena, such as the double-slit experiment or entanglement, may be evidence of a simulated reality that uses computational shortcuts or approximations. However, these claims are controversial and speculative, as they rely on interpretations of quantum theory that are not universally accepted or understood. Another way to escape the simulation is to find ways to hack or manipulate the code of the simulation, either from within or from without. This approach requires advanced knowledge of the simulation's programming language and architecture, as well as the ability to exploit potential vulnerabilities or loopholes. Another possible way to escape the simulation is through a philosophical approach. Some philosophers believe that by becoming aware of the fact that we are living in a simulation, we can break free from its control. For example, the philosopher René Descartes believed that by doubting everything we know, including our own existence, we can eventually arrive at a truth that is beyond the simulation. This approach is similar to the idea of waking up from the simulation, and it requires a deep understanding of the nature of reality, not dissimilar to perhaps the idea of enlightenment in Buddhism. According to Buddhist teachings, our ordinary experience of reality is illusory, and that true reality lies beyond our everyday perceptions. By achieving enlightenment or nirvana, one is said to transcend the limitations of the illusory world and gain a deeper understanding of reality. As to the question of who might have created the simulation, one hypothesis is that our simulation is being run by a highly advanced civilization, perhaps post-human or even extraterrestrial in nature. The purpose of the simulation could be to study the past or to simulate potential futures to aid in decision-making, or to explore scenarios that are too dangerous or difficult to test in the real world. Another hypothesis is that our simulation is being run by a future version of ourselves who have developed the technology to simulate their ancestors. There are also theories that suggest the simulation could be a result of natural processes or a byproduct of another universe. For example, some physicists have proposed that our universe could be a holographic projection or a simulation created by a higher dimensional reality. While these theories are speculation at this time, what would be the implications of living in a simulated reality? The realization that our reality is not the ultimate reality would have profound implications for our understanding of the universe and our place in it. That what we perceive as reality has been created as a form of research, or perhaps even entertainment. This idea raises questions about the nature of consciousness and free will. If our reality is just a simulation, then do we truly have free will? Or are our choices predetermined by the code running the simulation? And if our consciousness is just a program, then what does it mean to be truly alive? Another implication of living in a simulation is the idea that our universe may not be the only one. If it's possible to create one simulated reality, then it's likely that there are many more, each with its own set of rules and physical laws. This idea raises questions about the nature of the multiverse and the possibility of parallel universes. If there are multiple simulated realities, then it's possible that there are also real universes that exist outside of the simulation. If we were to discover that our reality is a simulation, it would challenge many traditional religious beliefs that are based on the assumption that the physical world is real and not an illusion. It is also possible that religions could reinterpret their teachings to fit within the context of a simulated reality. For instance, some religions might see the simulation as a manifestation of a higher power or divine intelligence, while others might view it as a testing ground for human souls. In any event, it's reasonable to assume that the impact on society as we know it would be dramatic. Would we still have the will to go about our lives if we knew that none of what we do is truly real? Or would we just continue since we don't have any way of escaping the simulation? Perhaps the simulation would reboot or end once we collectively realize its existence. However, it is important to acknowledge that many critics also question the very idea of simulation theory as a whole. One of the main challenges to simulation theory is the lack of empirical evidence and the fact that it relies heavily on philosophical arguments. This has led some scientists and skeptics to question its validity. Another argument against simulation theory is the problem of infinite regress. If our reality is a simulation, then the civilization that created it must exist in a higher reality, which in turn must be a simulation created by an even more advanced civilization, and so on. This creates an endless chain of simulations, which is a problematic and unsatisfactory explanation for the origins of our reality. In conclusion, while we don't have firm answers as to whether or not we are living in a simulation, it's important to continue to explore these ideas and push the boundaries of our understanding of the universe. Who knows what we may discover next? Please let us know in the comments what you would do if you found out that reality is only a simulation. Also, if you enjoyed this content, we would love to have you as a subscriber to our channel. Your support will help us continue creating content on other interesting subjects in future episodes.